Again, welcome parents to our March Parenting as Partner Network. Here, we're glad to see you guys tonight. Thank you for being patient with us as we fight through this technical issues we have every now and then. We have a good presenters tonight, Mr. Perry Boyd from UM Dearborn, talking about the TRIO programs and our partnership with Chandler Park Academy. We're going to go ahead and get started and get kicked off with none other than Mr. Anderson, the principal of the elementary building.
Good evening, parents. Just want to give you a couple of updates as we are approaching the spring. I believe it's coming up this weekend. And as you know, with schools, it's testing season. So for the elementary, our M-STEP testing window will begin April 12th, and it will go until May 21st. And we're testing M-STEP for grades 3, 4, and 5. We're beginning with our 5th grade students. So that's where we're at right now when it comes to testing. So we're just preparing for our elementary parents. I hope you have been able to see your students getting on Study Island, because that is the platform that we're using for test prep. The only other update that I have at this time is that we are in the final stages of exploring after-school tutoring. This year has been like no other. So we have decided that we're going to move forward with tutoring for the rest of the school year. So we're exploring how that would look in regards to our virtual students, how that would look for our NC students. So look for that information. That information is forthcoming. And thank you for coming out tonight. And that's all for the elementary.
Mr. Anderson, thank you so much for the updates. Do you have when is the last day for the book fair? You know, fan.
It will be, the book fair is tomorrow. But one of the things that we're going to be exploring is possibly having an extended period next week. So I just got word of that today. So I'm gonna touch base with Mrs. Vieto and see how that information, or how we will roll with that. But it was supposed to be today. But we did send out a virtual link to our parents to be able to purchase books that way as well.
Thank you so much. Parents, so just understand, even though the book fair is being housed in the elementary building, we have books for K through 12. So high school students, middle school students can take advantage of the opportunity as well, whether you come over to the building on door number 6 of the elementary building, or if you go to the link that Mr. Anderson talked about online. We have content for all grade levels, including past 12th grade. So thank you for that information, Mr. Anderson. Next up is Dr. Rencher, the principal of the middle school.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to see so many of our middle school parents on the line tonight. So I guess I wanted to say, first off, is thank you for your patience. Thank you for supporting us and our efforts to support you in our education of our students. We are because you are, so we exist because of you. Thank you. I'd like to say that to start off, but also we have a couple of announcements that I want to share. One is that tutoring began on Monday, this past Monday, and we had a good turnout. We have a lot of students who registered, and it's not just for students who are struggling, it's for any student who would like to improve their achievement, prepare for the next year, or prepare for the upcoming assessments. Like Mr. Anderson said, we have assessments coming up. Our first is the 8th grade PSAT. 8-9. That's a very important assessment for 8th graders to find out where they are on the spectrum of their college pursuits. So with this test, they'll know a lot about what they need to improve. This actually goes into their records on how they perform. And some colleges actually use the data that we receive from the PSAT 8-9 to base some of their scholarship determinations on. So it's a very important test. And if your students or your child believes that it's not, it's just another test, please convince them otherwise and encourage them to participate. It's on site. It's a paper-based test. It's just like the SAT that we took when we were younger, but it's at an 8th grade level. So that's one of the first things. We also have the NWEA map that we're going to administer, as well as the M-STEP. So all of these assessments, although we say it's tedious, it takes away from actual learning in the classroom, we just need to know exactly where we are so that we can adequately plan to get where we need to get to be. So please encourage your students to do their best, try their best on an assessment that they have. You never know what can result from it. Also, aside from tutoring and assessments, we've assigned mentors to a lot of our students. This includes the administrators, the support staff, counselors, social worker for students who need additional support and doing their best in every day, all day. So we monitor them, make sure that we address any obstacles that may come up for them or the family. It may be some technological issues that we can actually eradicate for them. So we just want to maintain that connection with the parents and the students to make sure that everyone is doing as well as they possibly can. Aside from that, we don't have any more announcements. We're going to actually send out an invitation to a parent involvement activity soon. Something that's fun, something that we can connect with the families through, but we'll send that to you shortly. So once again, thank you all for your support, your patience, and your diligence in doing everything that you can at home to make sure that your students are successful.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks for the update for the middle school. Again, parents, if you have any questions towards the end, Mr. Anderson, Dr. Rencher, and Ms. Seal, who is sitting in for Mr. Ericson, the principal of the high school. Ms. Seal is assistant principal, and she's been on this round table before, so she's no rookie to the party. Ms. Seal, at this time, give us a high school update.
Hi, everyone. And sticking with the same vein as my other colleagues spoke about, we also have testing at the high school that will be taking place. Our 11th graders specifically will be taking their SAT testing, and that will happen April 14th. We have already had our students participating in boot camp. So it's basically like some test prep and things like that we have been having virtually for our students. So they have some information, and we will also be sharing a little bit more information with our parents through email about specific testing times and procedures for reporting to the building. When it comes to our honors program, we are excited that we were able to put it together virtually for our first semester honorees. We are honoring many students with honor roll, and we also had quite a few 4.0 and principal list students, so we were really excited. It looked a little rough when we all first started our virtual schooling, but some of our students really stepped up, and they really did an awesome job in keeping their grades up and even getting all A's during this first semester. So we couldn't let this go past without highlighting those students. And although we couldn't come together, we were able to put together a nice video that will be shared with the high school families in just a few days. Also, we are taking part in a partnership with the Detroit Cares program. We will have it where some of our younger students who are coming over, who have just come over from the middle school, our ninth graders, we're going to set them up with some mentors for the rest of the year. And it's actually going to be some of the upperclassmen. So it's a twofold situation where our 11th and 12th graders are going to get some mentoring from adults, and then they will get some training in order to be mentors to the ninth grade mentees. So this is a partnership that we have with Detroit Cares. Our training for our mentors or our upperclassmen is going to start next week. And then once we return from break, we'll be able to get our ninth grade mentees participating during the day in some various activities, skill building, social skills, social emotional discussions and activities. So we look forward to having that partnership with Detroit Cares. And then lastly, one of the reasons Mr. Ericson couldn't be here today, we have some championship basketball games going on. Well, we're in the playoffs, so we know that we're really excited because our boys and girls basketball teams are both in playoff situations, and I believe our JV is actually getting awarded. Our JV boys team is getting an award today. And so we're kind of all over the place at the high school, but we're super excited about our boys and girls being able to have their basketball season. And even those students who stayed on the honor roll as athletes. So we're just super excited about all that's going on in spite of everything. So that's pretty much it on high school.
Thank you so much, Ms. Seal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, the JV boys are in a championship game today over at Voyager High School at 7 p.m. So I will be going there directly after we end the parent meeting to give some admin support. And then we have our boys play tomorrow against DEPSA at Bradford Academy, and the girls play Friday here. So we got this. This is a busy time for sports trying to play catch up due to the shutdown. We're trying to squeeze everything in and make sure the athletes are able to enjoy their winter sports as well as get ready for our spring sports coming up in April for track and softball and baseball as well. Thank you, Ms. Seal. Thank you, thank you. Okay, next up is our special presenter for the night, the man of the hour. Mr. Perry Boyd not only is a great parent, he also works at the UM Dearborn. We've been in partnership with the Chandler Park Academy and going, I think, 10 years now through several different programs. So we kind of go way back. And we're just trying to look to go our relationship with UM Dearborn to another level. So parents, he's going to present you tonight some great tips and tools of how you can get your child involved in different programs. Mr. Boyd, it's all you.
Thank you, Williams. I don't know if I'm special, but thank you. So what I wanted to talk about is our rich history that we do have with Chandler Park Academy. And starting from middle school, that doesn't mean that we don't care about elementary school, but starting from middle school is generally where we start working with students at Chandler Park. And we've been working with Chandler Park since 2011. So it's been 10 years. And a few things I want to cover tonight, I just share with you is, the programs we have in our office, the type of work that we do, what our philosophy is with regards to working with students. And then I want to talk a little bit about strategies for student success. And I'm just thinking about it. So in the 23 years that I've been at the University of Michigan, Dearborn, I always look at, like my experience working with students, administrators in different school districts. And I just thought about, like, when you go to the doctor and you want to get a problem solved because you need to see a physician. And let's just say the doctor, I don't know if this ever happened to anyone, but you go see the doctor and then they tell you to open your mouth and then they look down your ears and then next thing you know, they're over there writing a prescription. And then you're thinking like, well, I don't feel like I've gotten a full examination. And so when I'm thinking about how we help our kids become successful, I wanted to make sure that we give everyone's looking at the full picture and giving a full examination of how ways we can give practical prescriptions to students and parents so that so children can be successful. And so that's the way I'm looking at it. So like I said, again, I've been at the University of Michigan for 23 years. We have several programs in our office. One of the programs that we have is Gear Up, which is Chandler Park Middle Schools, which is one of our partners. And just a little bit about the Gear Up program. Gear Up is an acronym, and it stands for Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs. Now, the program is designed to help students get ready and prepare for post-secondary opportunities. In addition to that, we provide intervention services to help them build skills along the way. And there's also a scholarship component. And so we start with the 7th grade. So if you have a child that's in the 7th grade, they are a part of the GEAR program, whether they know it or not. And we follow all of our 7th graders for 6 years. So it's a cohort. So everyone in the 7th grade will offer GEAR Up services this year. Next year, they will be in the 8th grade. They will be offered services in the 8th grade, all the way through their first year of post-secondary education. And what we mean by post-secondary education, that means any education after high school, whether it's trade school, vocational school, community college, university, they can receive services from the GEAR program from the University of Michigan Dearborn for 7 years. And so to talk a little bit about some of the programs we offer. So for example, right now, some of the programs that we're offering to all of our GIFT students, we have 6 schools that we're partnering with, Chandler Park being one of them. So we offer programs like 3D printing, learning how to fly a drone, arts and crafts. We have a partnership with the FBI where they offer an FBI Teen Academy. We have a virtual reality program, math intervention program, a STEM hands-on learning program, computer program, and an esports program. And we have a few other programs that I didn't mention because I don't want to take up too much time and get into the details of all the programs, but those are just some of the programs that we do offer. And again, we are with the students for 7 years, as long as they're in Chandler Park. And I know sometimes the question may come up, well, what if your child leaves the district? Then they are no longer in our program. However, there are 15 public universities that have the GEAR program, and it is likely that they could end up at a school that's partnered with another university and can continue receiving those services. So I want to share my screen with you because, oh, well, let me get back to this. There was something else I want to mention. First of all, I do want to give a shout out to Chandler Park because I do have 3 children who have graduated from Chandler Park, 1 in 2015, 1 in 2016, and 1 in 2017. My oldest child, who graduated in 2015, went on to the University of Michigan, Flint, graduated there with honors in biology, and now she's in Teach for America. She's in North Carolina, and she's a full-time teacher as well. So shout out to Chandler Park. And I just want to talk a little bit now about, let me get into my presentation here. I'll have to share my screen with you. 1 second. We get into our philosophy at the University of Michigan Dearborn in the Office of TRIO programs. And again, we have different programs that we work with. And I just want to get into what is our philosophy and how we work with students. And if I can get my screen to come up here. It's not working. All right. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. So our philosophy with working with students, I think is very simple. And I think a lot of times when we think about how should we work with students and what kind of programming are we providing for students that's going to help them be more successful. And it's interesting, I've worked with a lot of different school districts and a lot of different schools and a lot of different programs from other colleges. And I think oftentimes we complicate things when the problem is much more simple to solve. And I think I want to talk a little bit about how we help students solve some of the problems and being successful. So one of the things that kids often ask is, what is the purpose of education? And so, especially working with underrepresented kids, I think this is often a big question, a question that's not answered to me properly. So when I talk to kids, I talk to them about what's the purpose of education, and the purpose of education is to solve problems. So we can think of the most simplistic thing like getting in and out of a car. You know, you still have to know what where the handle is, how to actually put your leg out the door. You know, there's just simple things. You get to have the motor skills to do all stuff. And these are things you learn, and it's simple things. So one of the things I talk to kids about, when you go to school, you can learn to solve problems for other people, and you can learn to solve problems for yourself. Oftentimes, I believe students are learned to solve problems for other people. So many of the programs we have, for example, if we have a 3D printing program, they can learn how to solve a problem and build something with 3D printing, but have they developed the skills to go through the process to learn how to solve the problems so that they then can solve a problem for someone else, rather than just learning how to solve problems for other people. And so to me, that's important. And so one of the other things we talk about is being college ready and not college eligible. And many students graduate and they're college eligible, but are they college ready? And so what do we mean by college ready rather than college eligible? So college eligible meaning that you meet the standards to get admitted into the university. College ready means that you generally don't need to take remedial courses. Oftentimes students get admitted, and I've seen students who take AP calculus in high school, but when they take the exam to get in college, they place in algebra or trigonometry, and they don't even place in calculus. So they're placed in remedial courses. And so if we look at the statistics here, 61% of the students who attend community college take remedial courses. 28% of students who attend universities require remedial courses. And there's some other interesting facts. 62% of Michigan high schools attend college. 38% of those students actually graduate from college. And so when we look at what is a measure, how do we measure what success is prior to students getting into college? Now, we do know that ACT and SAT scores are good indicators, because oftentimes students who score high on ACT and SAT scores generally don't need remedial courses. So that is a good indicator. And we do know that students who participate in sports generally do better in college than some other students, because they develop the grit and the persistence. Now, this is something that I think we don't hear a lot talked about, but when students are in school, they're learning math subjects like math, science, English, social studies, government. These are the academic skills. Now, over 20 years of research have shown that the academic skills are useful, but academic behaviors are essential. And this is what I call the in-home curriculum that's not necessarily taught in school, except with the exception of maybe say an ROTC program that also teaches some of these academic behaviors. So the current system that we're in now in the United States, our education system, is structured in a way where kids have to learn in a linear way. So when kids reach age 10, they're just expected to know certain things. When they reach age 12, they're just expected to know certain things, not taking into account that everyone doesn't learn at the same pace, which I believe is a structural problem. So how do kids get beyond that structural problem? Well, one way, they can master the content. And so oftentimes I had the benefit of working with the Office of International Affairs at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. And many times when I talk to students who come from over in other countries, they say that regardless of how well you do in school, at the end of the year, you must take a test to show that you've mastered the content, or you cannot move on to the next level. And that is usually not the case in our education system. So we talk to students about mastery of content. That's very important. Now, because of the education system that we have to find ways to get beyond those barriers. And so these are some of the things we work with students on, to developing specific academic behaviors, having the strong work ethic, communication skills, time management, teamwork, leadership, critical thinking, critical observation, and creative problem solving. And I know these are a lot of things that buzzwords that people throw around, but are our kids really learning this? And these are things you can't learn in one workshop. These are behaviors that have to be developed over time. And so another important factor I think we don't talk about, if you look at the SAT and ACT scores, oftentimes you will see underrepresented students will actually score lower, and it's because of their comprehension. And so I give a good example, like students will see the word elated and they can't contextualize it, and it means happy, because they're not used to getting certain vocabulary words. And they've done many studies to show if you got two groups that you're working with and you give one group a new vocabulary word every week to learn, by the end of the year, that one group will perform better in every subject matter, because they have a higher vocabulary, which generally increases intelligence. On the job, they have higher income. And I remember somebody said, your boss is your boss because they have a better vocabulary than you do. Then increases your comprehension. And so I always tell students this: you don't have to be able to use these words. So you have your functional vocabulary and your recognizable vocabulary. So I tell them, learn new words so that at least it's part of your recognizable vocabulary. It doesn't necessarily be functional, but recognizable. And so One of the things we tell students is to leverage the programs in your school. As a partner with Chandler Park, we also leverage some of the programs in the schools to help students be more successful, understanding what those programs are and what they're supposed to produce. For example, tutoring. Oftentimes, tutoring is thrown out, students are struggling, send them to tutoring. That's not always the answer. Oftentimes, it's supplemental instruction that they need. Tutoring is designed to help you get beyond where you're stuck, and understanding what it's designed for will help you understand whether or not it's useful to you, and it can help you become more successful. Taking advantage of the SAT prep, mentoring. I don't think it's stressed enough. Mentoring is essential to students' developments. Academic counseling, meeting with their counselor regularly, having an educational development plan, and then working with college admissions assistants. So understanding what does it take to get admitted into college, and what will I need to do to be not just be admitted, but to be successful in college, which is what I talked about when we talked about being college ready, not college eligible. And so we promote students becoming successful by obtaining any credentials after high school, and it's post-secondary schooling, whether it's universities, college, seminaries, conservatories, institutes of technology, vocational schools, and trade schools. So any credentials after high school is what we are stressing for students, because we understand that every student wants to go to college. And even students who don't necessarily want to go to a school to get some credentials, I ask them this one question. If you're not going to school, you need a plan of action. And so we sit down and find out, what is your plan of action? And so that's a little bit about our philosophy. I'm going to switch now to some of the successful strategies that we hope that you can employ, or that students employ, as far as them becoming successful in school. Let me stop sharing my screen. I don't know if I can open this up for questions now, or should I wait to the end of the presentation?
We usually wait to the end, Brother Borden.
Okay, because I didn't want to just switch off and then somebody might have a question.
So parents,
I'm so far on
another. Questions, parents, please write your questions. Put your questions in the chats, parents. If you got questions right now, just put your questions in the chat. We'll get them at the end.
Okay. And so I'll go on to talk. I want to talk a little bit about the strategies that we hope students can employ to be successful. Let me pull up my presentation here. Right. Now, so now I want to talk a little, lastly, I want to talk a little bit about skills for successful learning. Now, in no way this is meant to tell parents how to rear their children. This is strictly based on my experience working with students and working with my own children. And so these are some things that I've learned that I just want to. So I know I mentioned something about time management, but I think a lot of times we don't realize the importance of time management and how it coincides with organizational skills. And so when I talk time management, I always talk about organizational skills as well. They seem to intersect. So when I talk to students, we talk about how much time are you spending looking for your phone, misplaced homework assignments, looking for keys, emails, just trying to locate something to wear. Like, how are you managing your time? And a lot of this has to do with the ability to be organized. And so I'll ask students, this and parents, does your children's book bag look like this? Does it look like that? How about their room? Oh, this picture's not coming up. How about their bedroom? Is everything organized or disorganized? And so it's an interesting story I have, and I'll share with you quickly. So we talk about the 3 principles of good organizational skills. So we'll talk about everything in its proper place. Oftentimes when I go out to schools and I'll talk to students before they leave out, I'll say, everything goes where? And they say, it's proper place. And I tell them, I never lose anything, because when I come home, I have a place for my keys. I have a place for my watch. I have a place for my shoes. So everything per place. It is a major time saver. And so also developing a routine, writing things down. And I hear students a lot say, I just forget a lot of stuff. I'm saying, okay, well, it's because you have a lot going on, or whatever the case may be. But what you can do is you create a system where you don't have to forget, so you write these down. So these things are so critical. We went out to a school where we were providing some services, one of our Gear Partner schools, and the students on the basketball team were not doing well in math. So we sent the tutor out to assist with their math because that's what they requested. The tutor spent the first 2 weeks helping students getting all of their information organized in their backpacks and their folders, and all of their grades had gone up, not because they needed help with tutoring, it was because they were unorganized. Something very simple. And so we talked about what a productive person is. Productive people get things done. You know, putting down your phone and turning off the television and closing down the social networks. And so we talk about, like, how do you distinguish between tasks that are important and menial tasks? And I do this illustration with students all the time. I get the cup. I tell them which one goes in first. You can't see the sand. I don't know what's wrong with my presentation, but you got sand and you have rocks. I say, which one goes in first? You need to fill this cup up. And so I'll let them experiment. You want to put the rocks in first or the sand? And then eventually we get to the point where they understand the rocks are the important tasks and the sand are the menial tasks or unimportant tasks. So you put the rocks in first, and then you pour the sand in last, and the sand fills in the cracks, which gives them an illustration of how you manage your time and how you organize things or prioritize things. I don't know what's wrong with my presentation. I'm not getting hold on, something's not right. I'm sorry. I don't know why this is not coming up. And so we talk about self-discipline. And so I give students an equation. I tell them actions plus feelings equals actions. So I tell them which is the 0 and which is the 1. And so giving them a true definition, self-discipline is doing whatever needs to be done regardless to how you feel. So your feelings don't factor into the equation. And so this is something that I try to teach students, that this is one of the most important things, students getting things done. Think about it. If you put something on the calendar, if you don't have the discipline, you're not going to follow your schedule and do things that's on your calendar. So one relates to the other. And these are things we teach. So we tell them, don't give yourself an out. Don't say, I'll do it later. And then having realistic goals and setting yourself up for success. So I think about when I go out to schools often and I talk to students and I'll go into class, I say, almost every class I go into, especially with the males, I'll say, how many of you are going to the NBA? Almost every student will raise their hand, or NFL. And I tell them, there are not even enough teams to accommodate as many students that are planning on going to the NBA and NFL just in this one school. And so having realistic goals, and one of the things that's a bit disconcerting is that many of the inner city schools, many of the students want to have an illicit relationship with a ball or be on the stage telling the ball, and they think that's their only way out. And so I try to explain to them that your success rate is much higher just by you understanding that you can accomplish anything by using your brain. And everybody has physical gifts. So I don't tell students not to dream and not to follow a dream, but understanding that goals have to be realistic. And when you're making changes, and I had alluded to this earlier in the other presentation, anytime you're making changes, they have to be small, positive changes. Things don't happen overnight. So that's also a way of setting yourself up for success. And so this, to me, is the most important thing of anything that I've talked about tonight. And it's time on task. Count it among the most important factors affecting students' learning and achievement. And it can be defined as the amount of time a class spends in quality instruction. There's no substitute for time on task. And so I did a comparison with other countries and how students behave in other countries around the world. And China has have over 1 billion people. So I thought they were a good country to look at. I've also gone to a graduation where one of the students, and I don't know if she was from China, but she was Asian. And she said that She was valedictorian, and she said that I'm tired of people saying I'm smart because I'm Asian. She said, I'm smart because I work hard to get good grades. And that's something that's it's like a stigma where a lot of times people think, well, if you're not, so I often ask people, if you're African American, are you born stupid? And if you're from Asia, you're born smart. Is that what this is? Or is there something else? And so students in China, primary and secondary school, spend an average of 3 hours doing homework and assignments every day, which is twice the global average. And so there was an interesting article that I read in the Business Insider. And so I'm going to share this article with you. It says Chinese children crush Americans in math thanks to a mindset Americans only display in one place, and that's sports. And so they go on into the writer goes on to talk about Chu, a Chinese American journalist raised by Chinese parents in Texas, moved to Shanghai with their American husband and toddler son in 2009. Achievement is the result of hard work, not innate ability. Chu explains this approach comes from an intrinsic belief that anything is possible with hard work. If there's a goal worth accomplishing day to day, life might be absolutely miserable, unpleasant for a spell. And this is what I talk about with discipline. Forget how you feel. There's a goal that needs to be accomplished. You feel better after you accomplish your goal. So she continues, it's a concept that parents tell their children. And this is why I say this is an in-home curriculum. It's a concept that parents tell their children, teachers ingrain in their students, and China's leaders use to motivate their populace toward the goal of modernizing China. The concept reverberates in the classroom. Studies show that for kids who score poorly, Chinese teachers believe a lack of effort rather than of smarts is to blame. There's little difference in the intelligence of my students. Teacher Mayo, a Chinese language teacher at Shanghai High School, told me, his voice unwavering in his conviction, hard work is the most important thing. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. And so I always go back to babies. We can learn a lot from babies as they develop and learn to walk. And I always ask people this, if children, when they're babies, thought the way that middle schoolers thought and thought the way that high schoolers thought, would they ever learn to walk? They don't stop until they learn, because that's the grit and persistence. And we always hear people talking about, oh, students need to develop grit and persistence. They already are born with it. They lose it along the way. This is what I don't understand. You put a baby in the crib and a couple of days later, they'll learn how to climb out the crib. That's the grit and persistence. It's already there. And so one of the things I want to leave you with, the last thing, is pedagogy. So thinking the climate we're in with online learning, and not even just online learning, but just how we interact with teachers and instructors as students. And that's the definition. Pedagogy is the definition, the method and practice of teaching. And so I often tell students, before pre-pandemic, teachers all have different methods and practices of teaching. It's up to the student to learn to adjust to the different methods and practices of teaching of instructors and instructors and teachers. It's not the teacher's job, and I'm not saying teachers should not, provide content in a way where students can learn it, but the students need to understand that that's what makes the world what it is that people have all different ways of doing things, and and that's going to make us a better student, is by learning how to adjust. And I see oftentimes students are complaining, just like we're in the pandemic now. I know it's a difficult time for all of the students, but the teachers didn't ask for this either. So as parents, we need to be considerate of both the students and the parents and all the other administration, that this is affecting everybody in a way that's not positive. So I'm going to end with that, and I'm going to open it up for any questions.
Let me look through the chat, see if we got anything in there from you, Mr. Boyd. Parents, if there any questions from Mr. Boyd right now, please put them in the chat. Oh, Mr. Boyd, one of the questions is it possible to get that presentation, the webinar, a parent wants to share that with their child, the one you just showed?
Yes, if they email me, I can share that with them. I can put my email in the chat,
Yep.
or I can put my contact information. They can email me or call me. I can put that in the chat. Can I put it in the chat?
You should be able to. Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Vega, for that question. Let's see. Trying to see if we got any other questions. Parents, any other questions about any of the Gear Up programs that UM Dearborn offers?
Okay. Yep. Put it in the chat there.
All right. Mr. Boyd, what do you suggest that parents do for those students who have not yet made it to the middle school level? What can they do in elementary school to get their kids to be headed in the right path for, as you call it, college ready?
Well, as I mentioned in the presentation, those behaviors that we stress that students start to develop, they need to start developing as early as possible. And I would start saying in elementary school. And, you know, as far as like, because the curriculum never changes. I was just, the curriculum doesn't change from the time you're in elementary. Let me forget what I said. The subject matter doesn't change from the time you're elementary all the way through high school. Generally, what I see happen in starting in elementary school is that when kids are doing well, they change something that they were doing along the way. Because if they're scoring A's and B's, then they already know what it takes to be successful. So then when they get to middle school, the subject matter never changes. It's, are you doing what you've been doing to get the same results? So developing all of those skills early on and those specific behaviors and taking advantage of any of the resources that are available when you see that there are areas you need to improve are important in elementary school, and just continuing to stick with that so that when you get to middle school, you'll be on the same course and you'll be able to accomplish the same goals that you had when you're in elementary school.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's all the questions that was in the chat that I'm going through. Parents, make sure that you do add your child's name and grade in here to get credit for showing up to the day it needs for extra credit. So put that in the chat if you have not yet so done. If you have not done so thus far, please put your child's name and grade in the chat so we can make sure we have acknowledge who is all here. Mr. Boyd has put his information inside of the chat as well. So any questions about anything dealing with college ready, he can help you out with that. Share the presentation with you as well. Let's see if we got anything else. I think that's about it. Okay, Mr. Boyd, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for sharing with us. We know that you're always available to us. We have to call you back at another time, but I know how to get in touch with you, so how to track you down. So thank you again for coming out tonight. Parents want to have a few last minute announcements, just to kind of make as a reminder. There is a Gleaners Food Program. The next food pickup is on March 30th at the Harper Woods Middle School. That's the community site for this area of town. So from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, we will get this out on social media as well. Parents, please check social media. That's how we do most of our communication on a regular basis. Always something being posted every day, whether it be Instagram or Facebook. So again, Gleaners Community Feed is March 30th from 9 to 11 o'clock at the Harper Woods Middle School right here off 8 Mile and Kelly. CPA does their food distribution every Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday is for all students, doesn't matter whether you're NC or virtual. Parents can come pick up food from 3 to 5 on Tuesday and 11 to 2 on Friday at door number 6 of the elementary building. So again, make sure that you take advantage of that opportunity. Let's see what else I got here. Oh, parent-teacher conference Dr. Rencher mentioned is this upcoming Friday from 1 to 6. Please make sure that you sign up to meet the teacher. Each parent has 10 minutes for a teacher to kind of keep things moving along. It's from 1 to 6, so you can be in your car, you can be at home, you can be at work. As one thing about the pandemic, it has brought on some technology that allow us to meet and gather quickly and more frequently without you having to come up to the building. You can just log in and see all your child's teacher at your time, at your own convenience of your schedule, and not have to wait in long lines when you come up here in person. So again, that's this Friday, 1 to 6, Meet the Teacher Parent Conference. We have a few programs through Matrix Human Services. We're going to get this out on our website as well as email to parents. They have like 6 different programs: Project Aviation, Future Doctor Tomorrow, Achieve and Accelerate, Health and Wellness, Financial Literacy, and Golf My Future Game. This is for students ages 10 to 17. So parents, I'll make sure I get the information out on the website so everybody will know what's going on. But these are some programs through Matrix Human Services. I think they are starting up in the next month or so. Just trying to give students the opportunity to get outside and do some things rather than being stuck up in the house all day long. If you didn't get a chance to attend last week's meeting, Parenting During the Pandemic workshop, this had phenomenal opportunity again. Ms. Dale did a great job talking to parents about mental health and how to help your child during this time. Please make sure you come out next month, April the 14th, the second Wednesday of the month at the same time. It's going so good. I want to invite it out to the community as a whole. We're not only a school in the community, we're a school other communities. So they don't have to be Chandler Park Academy parents. But I don't want people to miss out on this opportunity to hear this great presenter, and the wealth of knowledge she's sharing, information she's sharing is so powerful. So if you aunties, uncles, cousins, your church folks, your neighbors, whoever you want to invite, just have them come out and set up and register to come to next month's Parenting During the Pandemic workshop, April 14th at 5 p.m. When you get the information, just forward them the registration, and we can get them set up for that. Great opportunity, great learning going on there. Some of you guys have been calling the school about the PEBT cards. That's a process the state is still working on, trying to get Chandler Park Academy set up. This is the first time doing it this way. We don't quite know how it works, but we are in the process with the state for the past 3 weeks to get our kids set up so that you will receive that money that you got last year for students who are extra money for students for food, because students are at home. Whether your child was in seat or virtual, doesn't matter. The state will be sending you that money. We're waiting on the state to get us set up and us rolling. But either way, you won't miss out on money. It may be backdated, but you will get everything every other parent's receiving that may be getting it right now. The state is just taking a while to get our school set up, but we are in the process of working with the state on that. So trust me, that's coming very soon. I think I got one more QA here. Let's see. Oh, we good. Okay, I'm good with that. All right, so parents, if no other questions, I'm gonna hold you tonight. Again, the information that Mr. Boyd shared, you email him, he'll send you the PowerPoint. Any questions you have for the principals? Thank you, Dr. Rencher. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you, Ms. Seal, for joining tonight. And parents, we're always available. We're here Monday through Thursday on campus. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you need me, give me a call. My email will be in the chat. My phone will be in the chat. So please, thank you for coming tonight, and we'll see you next month. Thank you again, Mr. Boyd, for a great presentation. Have a good night.